Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Friday, August 29th, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network 20 years after Hurricane Katrina slammed New Orleans and the Gulf Coast region. We examine the lessons learned, the resilience of black folks in the Crescent City, and the road still ahead. We'll talk with community leaders and educators to share with us the changes that have helped keep the city moving and still trying to recover. The delusions from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue hit a new high as some around the twice-impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald the Con Trump are pushing for him to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, talk about stupid, but an Indian anchor, she broke down why he should never, ever be considered for the coveted award. New data reveals deep inequities still impacting Black Ohioans in health, education, and opportunity. The president of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus Foundation will join us to discuss. Folks, there's a lot we're going to break down, including Greg Abbott signing those racist gerrymandered maps. Yeah, I got a couple of things to say about that. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin.
Folks, 20 years ago today, the world watched as one of the nation's worst natural disasters unfolded. On August 29th, 2005, Hurricane Katrina, a Category 3 storm, slammed the Gulf Coast, especially New Orleans. But it wasn't just the storm itself, it broke the levees there in New Orleans, unleashing significant floodwaters. The storm killed more than 180 people, caused $161 billion in damage. Now, we all remember the devastating images that came out of New Orleans. People stranded on rooftops, thousands of people packing into the New Orleans Superdome, dead bodies floating down the streets and propped up on sidewalks. The Crescent City has come a long way in the last 20 years, but there's still a lot more that needs to be done. New Orleans native and council member Oliver Thomas helped dozens of people escape the floodwaters and assisted his neighbors in returning to the 9th Ward. He joins us right now. Councilman Thomas, glad to have you on the show. I remember it well. Because obviously we were covering this, and of course there was a hurricane that followed. People don't remember, people forget that there was a hurricane that followed Katrina that was headed to Texas. Remember a declaration was called for people to flee Houston, and more than 1 million folks. It took 10, 12 hours driving from Houston to Dallas. My parents were headed to my home in North Texas. And so, those days and weeks, there was massive tension in the entire Gulf Coast region of the United States.
Well, first of all, thank you, man, for being one of the most trusted voices, I think, in the world today, especially when you talk about disparaged people, speaking truth to power, are having the legislative understanding of how policies hurt communities like ours. Yeah, I mean, we had a string of unfortunate natural disasters, one after another. But at that time, what we experienced in New Orleans was the largest, most cruel natural disaster in the history of this country. And it proved not only that a small city like ours wasn't prepared to deal with it on our own, but our state and our nation wasn't prepared either. And I would hope that what we've learned since then is that there needs to be a certain level of collaboration and coordination so that no other city and no other American community goes through that level of devastation, that level of neglect, and that level of suffering to recover ever again, Roland.
I mean, you talk about that. I mean, I remember. I mean, you had dysfunction between Mayor Ray Nagin and the Governor Blanco, and then of course what has happened on the federal level. And I mean, it was just. I mean, you did not have any level of synergy whatsoever.
Well, if you remember, during the President Bush's flyover, he said, "Yeah, I see you." Well, we didn't need him to fly over and say, "I see you." We need to have resources on the ground. We need to have a coordinated effort from our federal partners, who at that time were the only ones who had the resources to be able to deal with that level of disaster. And as we celebrate the 29th, I think what we need to remember, and thank you for saying it earlier, because a lot of the media forgets it, we survived much of what happened on the 29th. Mm-hmm. But when the core levees broke, and when 80% of our city became flooded, we suffered the 30th, the 31st, the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th. And then, Roland, you'll remember, I think you may have reported on it some time ago, when the federal government said, yes, there was disparity in funding, that the poorest communities, like the ones we represent, didn't get their fair share of funding, mm-hmm. but there wasn't any remedy. So, oh yeah, we messed up, but we're not going to fix it. And 20 years later, we've worked hard to recover, absent those funds that distressed communities like New Orleans East, the Lower Ninth Ward, and parts of Gentilly deserved.
There are a lot of people who are watching us right now who were New Orleans residents, but they're now in Atlanta. They're now in Houston. They're now in Charlotte. I mean, people disperse. And that's the other thing that I don't think people also understand. This wasn't just about physically rebuilding New Orleans. This wasn't about, how do you bring back the culture of New Orleans. Mm-hmm. You literally lost business owners. You lost church leaders.
Teachers.
You lost. Yeah, I mean, you lost folk who were homeowners, who had jobs. It goes way beyond just how do you rebuild physically. You also had to rebuild people.
And Roland, you hit the nail right on the head. The late Carl Segura, who was a member of our Black Social Work Society here, talked about why didn't we have a trauma center here? Because the level of trauma that people experienced who were stuck here, ones who came back to despair and devastation. And so think about also the trauma of people who uprooted or were forced out and who had to leave, who couldn't come back. So our challenge here today is, Isabella Wilkerson's book, The Warmth Above the Suns, we've all read about Southern and Northern migration. And we know that most people in the twilight of their lives would like to be able to come back home. So you hit the nail right on the head. There's still a level of trauma and despair there that the federal government and our state partners still haven't understood or realized, because most people at some point, even if they think they found a better place, they would love to go back and reclaim their property and go back home, especially in their twilight years. Great point.
I remember Susan Taylor had, people don't realize that there was a massive event that was held there, she organized, which actually led to the start of National Care's Mentoring Project. And I remember I forgot where we were someplace, and I was having a conversation with a woman there, also with a man there, and both of them talked about their loved ones who were so traumatized. The PTSD was so significant that they literally walked into the Gulf of Mexico and took their life. That and a lot of people don't. I mean, and it was so many stories that I was hearing directly from impacted people.
Yes.
Children, adults, senior citizens. And your point about what's home, and again, when you saw the devastation, we're showing the videos right now, but when you saw just homes destroyed, everything lost, a lot of people who didn't have a lot to begin with, and then folks say, well, you can rebuild. That it's very easy to say that. And the other thing is, because of economics, the number of people who could not afford to leave the city.
You mentioned something that I think too often. I started a show on WBOK, Black Radio, called Mentally Speaking, with Victor Sims, Dr. Shervington, Tammy Lewis, some of our notable psychologists and psychiatrists, Brian Turner, years ago, just to deal with the mental health of this town. And while we were celebrating the commemoration by the Levy in the Lower Ninth Ward, where I grew up this morning, I got a call from a young man who was distraught. He was talking about giving up and how things didn't seem to feel well with this 20th anniversary because he was missing his dad. His father had came back to help with recovery, had experienced some of the stuff in the water, what was in the water, same thing. I had sores on my body for a couple of months going in and out rescuing people. And he missed his dad, and he couldn't understand some of the celebration. So I'm on the phone telling him, there's strength in the fact that you called me. And when he talked about, man, I missed my father. My father came back. He was in and out of those homes, in and out of that water, working here. He had a cough. He had trouble with respiratory. And he had not come to terms with the level of trauma that still exists today. Roland, thank you so much for understanding that, because it's real.
It absolutely is real. So there's a lot more to do, and there's a lot more to focus on. And I hope people really understand when we reflect on this particular day, and that people that there's still recovery. I mean, I remember, listen, Hurricane Andrew hit the Gulf Coast, went in Florida. I mean, it hit land, went out, came back in 1992. And there are some places that still have not recovered from that hurricane.
And that's why some of the discourse that's happening below the Mason-Dixie line with conservative state houses and in Texas, and some of the conversation that's happening out of D.C., man, American citizens and communities like ours that are still dealing with tragedy, we don't need predators, we need partners. We need partners in D.C. We need partners in southern state capitals. The people in Texas need partners. We don't need people because of their power, right? Highlighting our differences, the city versus the suburb versus the rural areas. We need them to understand what you understand, that many of the trauma, especially that we go through, whether it's lack of proper education facilities, whether it's the economic disparity, that with $160 or $70 billion, the economic disparity and gap has grown. We don't need our federal and our state officials being predators. We need them to partner with us with their humanity, not with their ideology, not with their political party, but with their hearts.
Well, and that particular point you made there, I just want to remind people, although this is not about Hurricane Katrina, 2021, the racist governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, refused to give $1 billion to Harris County when they were recovering from Hurricane Harvey, because he was pissed off that the late Sylvester Turner, black man, was the mayor of Houston, and Lena Hidalgo, Hispanic woman, was the county judge. And so he was pissed that Harris County is a blue county and screwed them out of $1 billion. And that was a federal lawsuit, and Donald Trump got rid of the lawsuit once he got into the White House. So the point that you just made there are examples where political ideology has penalized black people because of how we vote. And they said, oh, since y'all vote blue, then we're not going to send money your way. That has consistently happened.
And it has to stop. They cannot continue to practice democracy by subtraction. These people who think they can hold on and divide up America, divide us, if they think political power, right, and economic power, just for a few, is the path to the best place, then they don't understand 17th century France. They don't understand civilizations that have collapsed. And I think Roland, it was Nikita Khrushchev and one of them who said, America worries about an outside enemy, but we're going to watch you destroy yourself from within. Those types of actions lead to inevitably that when people are pushed outside of citizenship, outside of taxation without representation, you're going to have classes of people who come together against a common enemy. I wish they would sit down and read history books, man. Our leaders, whether it's Abbott or Trump or governors in conservative or southern states, if you're not bringing us together, you're not thinking about the best interests of this country or the best interests of your generations to follow you.
Well, Congressman Thomas, we appreciate you being on. We're going to have you back on, not to discuss this, but talk about the upcoming mayoral race. And so look forward to that conversation.
Man, thank you, man. It was good seeing you at Gallier Hall the last time you were here. We really appreciate you and your voice, but most importantly, we appreciate your heart and your care for our people, Roland. There are very few people who can match you. Thank you, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, we're going to go to a break. We're going to continue our reflection on Hurricane Katrina 20 years later, right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear, how the browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We are going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol, because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Coming soon to the Black Star Network.
I have name recognition, but I tour more than any rapper. And it's a lot of overseas stuff. And it's like, I'm going all over I've been to 80 countries in my lifetime. And sometimes I'll do interviews with people and they be like, so what you been doing? Like, what you been doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just came back from Belgium and Brazil and South Africa. What you been doing?
Right.
This week on The Other Side of Change,
300,000 Black women being pushed out of the workforce.
This is shocking yet unsurprising.
So what happens when a bunch of Black mothers lose their federal job? Their kids are not being fed, their kids are not being taken care of, but that trickles down to the entire community structure, which may be built on the backs of Black mothers and Black women more broadly.
Tune in on The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Yeah, boy, he always unfiltered, though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
Folks, my panel, Michael Imhotep, host African History Network show out of Detroit. Ben Dixon, pastor, political commentator, and author of the book, God is Not a Republican, joining us from Atlanta. And later be joined by Matt Manning, civil rights attorney out of Corpus Christi. I'll start with you, Ben. This is when we think back to this week, because hurricanes just don't just hit. I mean, there's a buildup there, and you're watching it as it approaches and approaches and approaches. And then all of a sudden, it makes landfall. and then with the initial hit, then the levees breaking, and then the aftermath. And this thing was so deep where you had some racist white folks who were cutting black people off of freeways, preventing them from coming into neighborhoods. And that was happening as well. Folks were killed by these actions. And so it wasn't just a natural disaster. It wasn't just levees breaking. It was also black folks being the victim of racists as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I recall it almost as if it was yesterday, back in 2005, where you saw the disparate treatment of Black people. And it was a stark reminder even then that we hadn't made the progress that we thought we made in America, especially when crisis came. When crisis came, we saw the true fascism of America wrapped deeply in racism and the exploitative nature of our pain that followed afterwards. I appreciate the congressperson who just spoke about how many contractors came in and began to exploit the region in so many ways that we've seen in crisis zones like this. But it was really a wake-up call that we are not safe and that if we're not prepared structurally as a community to provide for ourselves in times of crisis, we've seen systematically how the government will not only ignore it, but sit back and watch racism exacerbated.
Then you also had again, we're talking about that neighborhood. It was Algiers Point. And if we go back, and this here is, I'm going to show you this here. Give me 1 second. This actually, there were convictions. And I think I need to remind people, yo, this stuff actually happened. This here is a press release from the Department of Justice. And it's going to come up in just a second. And a New Orleans man was sentenced for a hate crime as a result. Go to my iPad. You see it right here. Roland Bourgeois, 55 of New Orleans, was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment, followed by 5 years of supervised release on charges that in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, he shot at 3 young African-American men because of their race as the men attempted to evacuate New Orleans, announced Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division, Eric Dryban. Today's sentencing brings closure to this race-motivated shooting that occurred over 13 years ago in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, said Assistant Attorney General Dryban. This sentence sends a clear message to those who attempt to divide our community with violence and fear, and the Department of Justice will work tirelessly to prosecute perpetrators of hate-motivated violence. That happened, and we can't forget that happening, Michael.
Absolutely. We can't forget that happened. I remember when it happened in 2005. I remember the anguish that a lot of African Americans felt across the country, seeing those images on TV. A lot of us organizing, donating how we can. I remember donating as well. And I remember African American organizations realizing, okay, we can't wait on the federal government. Okay, George W. Bush was president then. I remember when George W. Bush flew over New Orleans. I'll also remember his mother, Roland, you probably remember this, saying, well, why didn't the people leave? Or why can't they just leave? Things of this nature. So we also remember an insensitivity that a lot of white people in this country had to the conditions of African Americans leading up to the hurricane hitting and the levees breaking and people not being able to afford to leave. Okay. And also I remember a lot of people saying, okay, we need to go back to a lot of the cooperative organizations, the co-ops that we had that helped the community, things like that, like the Free African Society in 1787 that became founded in Philadelphia, that became instrumental in helping African Americans fight against yellow fever, things like this. A lot of African Americans started realizing, okay, we need to go back to organizations like that. We can't rely on the federal government.
If somebody is wondering what happened, first of all, this is who that racist is right here. You see him right here, and he never actually went to prison. He died 5 days after his sentencing Now, some of y'all may say, wait a minute, I'm sorry, this is the 20th anniversary of Katrina. I'm confused. Why was he convicted in 2019? Well, actually, right here. Federal prosecutors had cited Bourgeois' physical and mental health as one reason his court proceedings dragged on for nearly 9 years after he was initially indicted. He was indicted in 2010. He was repeatedly found incompetent to stand trial, but he was eventually declared competent in 2018. So just letting people know exactly what happened there. There's so much to talk about there. We talk about what happened in New Orleans. Also, one of the things that the massive change to the education system there as well. Patrick Dobard, the former superintendent of New Orleans Public Schools and a hurricane survivor, joins us right now, as well as Rashida Ferdinand, a fifth-generation resident of the Lower Ninth Ward and the founder of Sankofa CDC. So we're waiting to get her. So, but let me go to Patrick right now. Patrick. I remember that because first of all, glad to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Roland.
There were massive changes. There were a lot of people who wanted, who called New Orleans school system a failing school system. And then you had what was described, you had this massive charter experiment, if you will, that took place there in New Orleans. I remember we went down there, we did a broadcast as well. Part of our school choice is the Black choice. And just give us a sense of letting people know exactly how everything got upended and how, frankly, New Orleans turned into a guinea pig for a lot of education interest.
Yeah. First of all, thanks again for start doing this remembrance today as we go back. I know there are a lot of people that are still suffering. A lot of people still have some anxiety, particularly this time of year being still in hurricane season. But we appreciate the attention that's been brought to our city. I think a couple of things. One, in the years preceding the storm, unfortunately, the New Orleans school district was struggling in a number of ways. One, the absolute academic performance of students was, on average, the lowest in the state of Louisiana at the time. And then secondly, the central office was under investigation by the FBI for some mispractices, financial situations that were extremely difficult and very challenging, and a lot of fraud was going on throughout the system. It was pretty rampant. And so literally a few months before Katrina struck, the district was holding off from financial bankruptcy. And the State Department of Education was trying to make a decision on whether or not they were going to intervene within the city and try to take over at least some of the chronically failing schools that have been failing based off the state performance system for a number of years. And when the storm hit, the system was literally and figuratively wiped out. And it took a number of months before they could even start gauging how much impact this was going to have. And while that was going on, we had so many people that couldn't get back into the city, and we had a large Black middle class that was the main teacher force that were displaced. And the district had no resources. They were, again, right before the storm, they were literally about to go bankrupt. And so what the school district was forced to do was lay off teachers en masse because they had no way of making payroll. Obviously, there was no way to keep a system going. And in the months after the storm, the leaders that were in Baton Rouge at the time decided that the most efficient and quickest way that they could get schools back up and running so people could get back into the city to try to have something to give, to have kids can go to school and try to have a semblance of school while folks were trying to figure out how to put their lives back together, was to use what we call the chartering mechanism. And we had charter schools in New Orleans prior to the storm. And what folks decided to do was we had existing school leaders that were running their individual schools as principals. And a lot of those principals after the storm, one Alexina Medley, who was running Warren Easton High School, and Sharon Clark, who was running Sophie B. Wright High School, individuals like that decided that they were going to apply for a charter for the schools that they were principals of, and then they were able to get some of the schools jump-started. And so for the 20% of the city that wasn't underwater, we were able to get schools started that way. And that's what really started over the next decade plus, the system that was going to be totally unique, where it was one that was majority charter at the time. And today it's, I believe, about 98% charter.
In your estimation, was that a mistake? Or did you simply, at that time, have no choice?
I think at that time, we just had no choice. I mean, when you think about it, you had to have a space for parents to have their kids go, like literally. I mean, for folks that weren't aware of what was going on, just imagine you have water that was 6 feet, 8 feet high in some instances. In majority of neighborhoods, houses are totally were inundated with water. And then when the water receded, just imagine mud, mold, because it had been sitting for months. And you really had to figure out like how to start again. And so there were things like FEMA trailers that came where people were housed and able to stay there. But if you wanted to try to come back and work on things and be a part of the recovery of the city, we needed schools to open. And the most efficient way, and really the only way, because the district, again, was bankrupt, was for us to go the charter route. And what happened was charters, I actually think, was something that really empowered educators more than it had ever been. And when I talk about it, I try to break New Orleans down into like thinking about it in three sectors, where you have the regulators, the innovators, and the collaborators. And the regulators is government. Unfortunately, right after the storm, the state had to intervene on the schools because 68% of the schools at the time of Katrina were defined as failing by the State Department of Education. And what we had to do was create a governance infrastructure that was going to allow people to charter the schools, but at the same time, make sure that they were going to be held responsible under their contracts, that they were going to academically and socially and emotionally move students ahead as they should be in any traditional public school district. And so the regulation part was first under the Recovery School District. And then in 2016, the last year that I was over the Recovery District, I was the superintendent from 2012 through 2016. We worked on a unification plan where the Orleans Parish School Board had come back and they decided that they were going to be the authorizer and regulator of schools. And they had every option and opportunity if they wanted to direct run schools, but they decided that they were going to continue the model that was started after Katrina. So that's the first part of the system, the regulators. The second part is what we call the innovators. Those are the individuals who opened up schools. As I mentioned, a couple of school leaders that were former principals, they've opened up charter schools. We've had charter management organizations that came in, and we also had some local organizations that have started and grown and run schools in New Orleans, and they continue to run schools. They get to establish the curriculum. They get to select the time of day that they're going to start. They pick transportation, food services, after school care, all of the things that a traditional district does. It became more local. And we hear that a lot, where people want choice and people want more local control. You really can't get much more local than the school system that we have today in New Orleans. And then the third part is the collaborators. And the collaborators are nonprofit organizations and different organizations, philanthropic organizations in the city that work together to try to help support the schools. So they may provide resources, financial resources. They might create programming for kids, musical programs, arts programs. All of those entities work together. So when we think about the regulators, the innovators, and the collaborators, all three segments of the Orleans ecosystem of schools have really formed itself after Katrina. And we feel like things are in a much better place than they were before the storm. And one other thing that I'll mention is, we had $1.8 billion of facilities reconstruction after the storm. And while I was over the Recovery School District in 2012, one of the first things we did in my administration was to ensure that we had a disadvantaged business enterprise program that was tied to the building of the schools. We recognized that there was going to be a lot of money that's being generated to build first-class facilities. Think about this. New Orleans had never had a school facility master plan prior to the storm.
Wow.
Yes. And so there was no real local tax base in Louisiana. Our funding for schools in the early 1980s, the powers that be at that time decided that when they give money per child in Louisiana, which is about $10,000 a kid, facilities money is included in that. And so in a lot of poor districts, rural districts, and then even in New Orleans where the tax base wasn't that strong, you never really saw new schools. And so after the storm, once we got the FEMA settlement done, and I want to recognize that it was the first time in FEMA history that we were able to get a lump sum settlement. Because right after the storm, FEMA was trying to get us to itemize all of the things that needed to be replaced. And that was impossible, literally. And after about a year and a half, 2 years of haggling with the federal government, we finally got them to settle on a lump sum settlement. And once we were building the schools, we decided to implement the disadvantaged business enterprise. And through change orders and through the increased cost of construction, the total amount of revenue that was generated and work that was generated from the school reconstruction projects was about $5 billion, of which I'm proud to say $1 billion went to disadvantaged business, minority, and women-owned businesses. And I'll never forget when we were about to implement that, I had people telling me, Patrick, you can't do this, that state entities can't have a DBE. And I had our team look into it, legal looked into it, and the law was actually silent. So it was one of the things that I was glad that we took a risk on and made certain that we were able to do that. And so today when you go to New Orleans schools, you see a few things. One, you see buildings that tell our children and families that we really love them, that we care about them. I mean, we have state-of-the-art facilities. I remember Dr. Howard Fuller, who I know, Roland, that you know, Dr. Fuller came to New Orleans a few years ago, and he went into Carver High School, and he looked at me, he said, Patrick, he said, if I didn't know better, I would think this is a community college. He said, this is absolutely has to be one of the finest high schools I've ever seen in this country. And that meant a lot. And when you think about it, that's not an anomaly in New Orleans. That's the standard now for schools. And outside of the facilities and the infrastructure, right before the storm, only 1 out of 2 students were graduating on time. Today, we have an on-time graduation rate of almost 80%. When we think about equity, we had never had a differentiated funding formula in New Orleans before. And what we did was, in my administration, one of the things we did was to create an equitable funding formula where we now weight dollars that we're giving to students based off of their student characteristics. So if you're an English language learner, if you're an overage student, if you're a student that's high needs, we weight the dollars and give more to those individual serving students with the greatest challenges. And so I know there's been a lot said about New Orleans, and there's a lot of feelings about how the school system came about. And I'll be the first to admit that the state did a lot of things to New Orleans instead of with New Orleans in the early years. But as the years went on, and almost by 2012, the powers that be in Baton Rouge learned how to work with the community. And one of the things I'm extremely proud of is me being from New Orleans, but at the same time working with the State Department of Education. I felt like myself and my team were able to bridge things that weren't bridged right after the storm. And so, you know, we've made a lot of progress, but we know that there's still a lot of work to do, but extremely proud of where we are right now.
This here is some of the discussion that we had when I went to New Orleans specifically to talk about what was happening there education-wise, and this also included a young man who we talked to. So watch this.
I went to Psy Academy. I was a student. I was literate until 14. So, and what I had to do is I had to catch up. And a school like Psy Academy took a student like me and took a chance with me. Wow. And what Psy Academy did was they improved me. And I think that is a good school.
Welcome to the White House, everybody. And let me begin by thanking Troy and sharing his remarkable story. You know, I could not be more inspired by, you know, what he's accomplished, and can't wait to see what he's going to accomplish in the future.
My name is Troy Simon, and I am from New Orleans, Louisiana. I couldn't read until I was 14. I was held back twice and developed aggressive strategy skills to hide my illiteracy. My report card routinely confirmed my failure. But at 14, I decided to change my life. I know that it took me to be committed to education, but I also know that it took others to help me. I couldn't do it alone. Today's event is not about me, but it's about every kid in the United States of America, ensuring that they will succeed and get a chance to reach that intellectual potential. Before Hurricane Katrina, school was really hard for me. Growing up in the Lower Ninth Ward, having trouble with illiteracy, I went to first grade, second grade, third grade without knowing how to read. And that was really, really hard for me. And even outside of school, I had a tough time. So I would hang out late at night, smoke, drink, get into a lot of violence. Sometimes I would run the street with my friends tap dancing and snatching purses in the French Quarter. I tap danced because I figured that was a way to sort of get away from the world I was living in, poverty, on the borders of starvation. When Hurricane Katrina hit, I was in the 5th grade. School just started. We didn't have no food, no water. I know that people were looting, so we were looting too. Not because we were violent and dangerous people, but because we needed something. We needed food. We needed something to sustain us. But the media tried to portray us as bad people, you know, criminals who are just doing corrupt things. But no, we were trying to survive. That's all we were trying to do. So the switch came when I decided to change my life at age 14. I got into religion. Then religion became the root. Then that's when God told me what I need to do. Get into education. So I started studying in the library for grueling hours. Started paying attention to my 5th grade teacher who would tell me, hey, Troy, you can make it, you can make it. She would always tell me this. Got enrolled in an after-school program called Urban League College Track, which is College Track now. And they helped me flourish academically. That's when I left the school I used to go to, went to Psy Academy. That's when I really began to understand that charter schools, they do good to the community, the students. They have this love for education. I mean, maybe sometimes they're probably a little bit too tough, but I think that they're tough because they care and they love the students that they teach. Going to Psy Academy, I was able to win that scholarship, and also I was able to receive help with my writing. That's when I was asked to speak at the White House and introduce First Lady Michelle Obama. So, it is my pleasure to introduce someone who has shown great support and confidence in our nation's young people, someone who is working to help other students have a future as bright as mine. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our First Lady, Michelle Obama.
Thank you. And I'd also like us to give a really big hand to Troy for sharing that
We did a number of those pieces, and folks, you can check those out on our YouTube channel. And in fact, I'm gonna try to see if we can grab the one piece that we did and we'll restream at the end of the show. Patrick, that was one of the reasons why we went down there. Listen, I made it perfectly clear to people that I supported charter schools, but I made it clear I support all forms of education. So public schools, traditional, magnet, homeschool, online school, charter, private, parochial, you name it, I'm down with it. And this is one of those things that there were a lot of people who were angry, who were upset. They felt that the experimentation was going on, but we also were dealing with the reality that you just heard this young man say it. He was illiterate till he was 14 years old, and there were too many young brothers like him. Luckily, he learned how to read. But when you go to prisons, whether you're talking about Louisiana is one of the most is the highest incarceration in the state. You go to any prison in this country. The literacy rate of those in prison is about 90%. So education does indeed matter, Patrick, and that's why it was so important.
It does. No, it's extremely important. And, you know, I remember, you know, hearing about the young man and a couple of things I'd share on that. Like, first of all, his story, unfortunately, really starting about maybe in the early 1980s till about 2005, was more the norm for children coming through the public school system than not. And I taught in New Orleans. My first teaching job was in New Orleans. And I started noticing that pattern around the state. And that was one of the reasons why I became really passionate about like state accountability. Roland, everything you said, I'm for all forms of choice as well, but I believe in choice with accountability. And what happened was, like before the storm, I could remember in the late 1990s, that teachers and some educators across the state would be upset because we have like a annual standardized test to measure where students are. And for part of my career, I was an assessment coordinator within the State Department of Education. And real quickly, Louisiana has like 5 levels that we gauge students' proficiency. The lowest level is called unsatisfactory. So think about a 60-item test, and you might just get 10 items right. Then the next level is approaching basic, mastery, and advanced. In the late 1990s, Louisiana set approaching basic as the bar for proficiency, meaning that we had it so low that on the 60-item test, if students would get maybe 20 items correct, we were saying in Louisiana that you've mastered content and it's time to move on to the next grade. And that's how it was mind-boggling to me that people really was accepting this. And I was glad when the State Department said, no, we have to raise the bar. And so we moved it up to basic. And then now we're at mastery, what we call master in Louisiana, as a level of proficiency. So when we know that kids are performing well on standardized tests, we know they at least have the basics. And it used to frustrate me because when people would say, oh, we're teaching to the test, But I'm like, but we have to make certain that we know something. Like, there's no other way to really measure it if you have basic skills and if you have basic content knowledge. So Troy's story, unfortunately, was more the norm than the abnorm. The second thing I'd say is the school that he went to, Sci High, is a part of collegiate academies. And you could see the collegiate logo in the back of the video that you just shared. And collegiate was one of those networks that was founded by a young man that wasn't from New Orleans. He was white and he was idealist. And he had this vision of creating collegiate academies, but he wanted to make sure that they were serving all kids, regardless of their background. And I'll never forget when I first met him. His name is Ben Markovitz. He ended up winning an award from Oprah Winfrey. He was one of several educators that won $1 million to help pursue his dream of his network of schools. But then I watched him groom a young Black leader by the name of Jarrell Bryant, who was a principal at the school that the young man Troy went to. And Jarrell had been groomed over the last several years. And today he's now the CEO of Collegiate Academies, which also has Carver High School, which is an all-Black traditional high school in New Orleans, that at 2005, Carver was probably the second lowest performing school in the city and one of the lowest performing schools in the state, F-rated. Today, that same Carver High School, led by a young Black man who worked his way up, the same network that Troy was just featured in your video, is a B-rated school. Think about that. In just a short number of years, that school has gone from one of the worst schools to one of our success stories. And that in and of itself is not an anomaly in New Orleans. And so we're seeing tremendous growth. We know that it's not perfect. We know that there are a lot of areas that we need to work on, but it's stories like that and it's things like that that really give us hope that we can continue to make even greater gains over the next coming years to next decade.
All right. Patrick DeBard, I sure appreciate you joining us, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you, Roland, for having me. I really appreciate you.
All right, folks. I want to play one more, one of those interviews we did. And so, because it was really interesting. This was a brother who started one of those schools. And I want to show y'all this. Watch this. I talked to New Orleans' youngest charter school CEO at an abandoned school that never reopened after Katrina. You came in 2010, so that's 5 years ago. Yeah. And so you begin to work in this system, but then while working in this system, you all of a sudden begin to say, you know what, there's a different way education can be done. Yeah. And what was that moment?
It was spring of my second year of teaching. I taught a young man named Ricky Summers. He was 16 years old in the 8th grade, and by that time had effectively closed a 4-year achievement gap in reading and math.
You closed a 4-year achievement gap. How fast?
He came to our school in 5th grade, and by 8th grade, he was on grade level in reading and math.
Wow.
Yeah. Every day Ricky came to school, he said he was going to college and was definitely on track to do so. I got a call one day in the spring of that year where I got to know another side of Ricky. And I found out that Ricky sold drugs to support his family and was murdered during a drug deal gone bad. I found out the results of his state testing at his funeral, and according to those results, he was on track to receive full tuition to any state university in Louisiana through TOPS. Ricky had some of the best teachers in the country and one of the best school models in the country, and yet that wasn't enough to protect him from the very real conditions of poverty that he faced every day. After Ricky's death, I was inspired to build Rooted School. Rooted aims to connect students like Ricky to not only college, but entry-level jobs in high-growth, high-wage companies right out of high school.
And so as you begin to formulate your own idea, what makes your idea so different and unique from what is already being done?
Yeah. So over the next 5 years, thousands of jobs are opening. We're focusing on the digital sector first, but across many high-growth, high-wage industries. And my goal is to connect students like Ricky to these burgeoning opportunities that are right in their front yard while they're in school, so that they don't need to deal drugs in order to make ends meet. And the beauty is that with these jobs, students do not need a 4-year college degree in order to get them.
You're saying this is the future.
Yeah.
These are the jobs. We should be trying to educate and and train the people today for the jobs available when they graduate.
Exactly.
You got 44 states in America that now allow for charter schools. And you got lots of people who say we're totally against that, but without this current system, you couldn't do this. You couldn't be an innovator.
You're absolutely right. And I think it's the beauty of this city in that it has created the conditions for someone like myself, not even from here, to in 5 years put myself on a position where I'm launching a radically new school model, not only for the city, but arguably the country, that I think will provide real economic opportunities to kids right now.
Through this opportunity, as African Americans, we now have the opportunity to literally educate our own kids our own way.
Yeah, and I think charter movement was created out of the spirit of and belief of choice, and that we ought to create schools that are nimble enough to deal with the immediate needs of students, and that it is possible for kids like Ricky to have immediate economic opportunity while they're in school, and certainly immediately right after high school, that will fast track them and their families to freedom.
All right, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thanks much.
Yeah.
I want people to also know this is the power also of Black-owned media, the ability for us to be able to go down to do these stories that a lot of other folk were not doing. And so we did that. We were in partnership. Those pieces ran on TV One, and I own content. But again, be able to have that. We go back to my panel here. Matt Manning now joins us, and Matt, one of the biggest lessons. We don't have Matt connected yet. Okay, well, I need y'all to talk to me. I see him, so y'all need to tell me when that stuff. So let me go to Ben. So Ben, the thing we have to remember when we talk about, we having this discussion about Katrina in New Orleans, we also are talking about decades of negligence, and it then rears its ugly head when a natural disaster hits. That's what we saw right there. The entrenched poverty, the education, all of those different things. That's what it speaks to.
Absolutely. I think it is reflective of a cancer that has been present in this country since Black people have been in this country. And I love the way you phrase it, that when the disaster comes, it exacerbates it, it brings it to a head, but it's always been there. And those systematic problems, they haven't disappeared since. You know, the people of New Orleans have done amazing things. The Black community in New Orleans has done an amazing thing to recover as far as they have. But if you travel through the city now, you still see the legacy, not only of what happened during Katrina, but that same systemic deprivation that Black people exist in all around this country. And I think this is really important when we think about the impending climate disasters that we are creeping up on. What we saw happen in New Orleans was really just a precursor of what we can expect. Those same structural hindrances that Black people face, they will come to a head at every natural disaster that we are facing right now presently. And so I believe we have to firmly learn how to not only be resilient just as Black people, but how do we prepare in advance for the structural problems that we know are already here when these disasters come down the line?
Michael.
Yeah, Roland, you know, this coverage here is extremely important. It's the most in-depth I've seen or heard about in any media format today. And what you're saying is extremely important, because when we look at, yes, decades of neglect and disinvestment, not just neglect in the African-American community, but disinvestment from the federal government, state government, et cetera, that led to those conditions that we see. Then hitting on what Brother Ben just talked about is we see the cutbacks that are taking place in FEMA right now with this current administration. So we need to prepare ourselves for the next disaster with Lucifer in the flesh in office and divestments from FEMA. The response from the federal government is probably going to be poor, to say the least. So we're going to have to be prepared for the next event.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have folks in FEMA right now who are saying that we are not ready. And
Yes.
this is going to my iPad. Some FEMA staff warned that Trump cuts may weaken disaster response. And they've talked about it. 180 employees, knowing full well they could be targets, they wrote a letter to Congress saying, hey, we got issues. We got significant issues in that these people, there's a force reduction, and we're not going to be prepared for natural disaster. And so all of that is critically important. Folks, what we're going to do is, so when we went down there looking at the New Orleans charter school system, that was for the 10th anniversary. That was 10 years ago. And so we're going to restream for you that whole town hall. It was a fascinating conversation. And so we're going to have that ready to stream after we finish tonight's show. Let me go to a break. We come back, more to break down. So right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Don't forget, support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible to do the coverage that's necessary. And so do me a favor. Go to, if you want to give it a Cash App, use Stripe QR code. You see it right here. You can also click the Cash App button to continue. Checks and money orders. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037 7-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle. Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Next on A Balanced Life, here on Black Star Network, we're talking what it means to be a balanced young adult and turning 21. I know 21 is one of those ages where you think you're grown. You can do whatever you want. The law says that you can. But what are you packing in your 21-year-old toolkit that will allow you to not only survive, but to thrive?
You have every right to make whatever decision that you want to make, okay? Because you're grown. Don't go out here and do something and then want to come back and expect somebody else to clean it up for you.
That's all this week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann. And you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
All right, let's stay in Louisiana, dealing with that punk-ass House Speaker Mike Johnson. You know, Donald Trump's lackey. So check this out. This idiot goes on CNN, standing firm, supporting Donald Trump deploying National Guard into Washington, D.C. and other cities to combat crime. But then when asked about his own hometown of Shreveport, things got a little interesting. Play it.
Sometimes local governance does not do the job, and the oversight in D.C. is long overdue.
I was going to ask when you might be calling for the National Guard in Shreveport, which is, you have part of your district is Shreveport. The FBI statistics, actually violent crime per 100,000 residents, higher in Shreveport last year than Washington, D.C.
There's a lot of good work that's been done. There's a lot of reasons for that, but we have a Democrat DA there who has not been prosecuting crime as some other more aggressive DAs have around the country. Soros funded that individual to be elected. But I'll say that it's an urban area that has a lot of problems that are happening around the country, and we have to address it.
So would the Guard help? If the Guard can help in D.C., the president has said he wants to send the Guard to Chicago and other places. Why not Shreveport?
I don't know. That's not my call.
Would you
it may
ask
be
him for
necessary. Well, I don't know. Let's take one city at a time and see. We have to address the crime problem in any city where it's a problem like that. And in large cities like in Chicago, as you mentioned, that would be a big help there. I was there just 2 days ago, and it's a serious, serious problem. They don't even report murders on the evening news in Chicago anymore because it's so common. And Democrat-run cities typically have that problem because they have not been tough on crime. President Trump is one who believes in that, and we do as well. And we've got to take every measure to make sure we're keeping American cities safe. It's common sense.
I'm sorry. Let's see here. So we need to take action in cities where there's crime, but I don't know if we need to send the National Guard to my hometown of Shreveport. But I was in Chicago for a couple days, and things are bad there, so let's do it there. I hope y'all see the bullshit. I hope y'all saw it right there. This is why these Republicans are hypocrites and why they are frauds. The crime in Shreveport is high. Oh, well, you know, a lot of these large urban cities, they have problems, and there are things that we got to do to address it. Oh, you mean the things that impact crime, like economics and poverty and education? Oh, but you want the Guard in D.C. and Chicago, but you don't want National Guard in Shreveport, where the crime is even higher. Look, John Berman's a nice guy. He was at CNN when I was there, Matt. But this is where Berman should have said, no, we ain't moving on. We gonna stay right here. I need to understand. You just said, well, we gotta address other issues. Okay, what are those issues? How are you gonna fund them? What does that mean? What does it entail? See, I can't stand that bullshit when they move on to some other questions. No. Let's stay right here.
I think the Williams brothers said to sweep around your own front door before you try to sweep around mine, right? And that's what you have here. I mean, look, he doesn't want to admit that Shreveport is higher than, in terms of that data, in terms of the crime statistics, is higher than, I guess, the FBI average. And this is what you see Republicans do all the time. It's always for someone else and not for them. And it's interesting that we're talking specifically in the context of crime, because I've said it on the show. I mean, locally, when I was managing the DA's office, the same people who would be out calling for us to prosecute more aggressively because it was a liberal DA and he was Soros funded and all this stuff were the same people. When Muffy got a DWI down at the local college, some lawyer would come in and say, oh, but she deserves a second chance, right? Nobody else does. And that's what you're seeing here. I mean, because if it's really about law and order and you want the Guard to enforce law and order in local cities, then you would choose your own city to say, hey, we've got big problems. Why don't you come clean it up? But that would require you to not only be accountable and to shine a light on the missteps and the failures of the place where you live, Speaker Johnson. So this is the hypocrisy we see laden through all of the Republican rhetoric.
Yeah, and the reality is they need to be challenged on this over and over and over again. And I just don't believe in that whole thing of, let's move on. And in fact, he was, watch this here. So on Fox News, this came up on Fox News. This was a doozy here. I want y'all to watch this. Check this out.
But he name-dropped you personally yesterday, essentially trying to say that crime is worse in Louisiana than it is in California. Take a listen. We'll get your thoughts.
If he is to invest in crime suppression, I hope the President of the United States would look at the facts. Just consider Speaker Johnson's state and district. Just look at the murder rate. That's nearly 4 times higher than California's. In Louisiana.
Have at it.
Again, Gavin Newsom will do anything for attention. He can name drop me all he wants. He needs to go and govern his state and not be engaging in all of this. Look, we have crime in cities all across America, and we're against that everywhere, and we need to bring policies to bear. My hometown of Shreveport has done a great job of reducing crime gradually, but we've got to address it everywhere that it rears its ugly head. And I think every major city in the country, the residents of those cities, are open to that and anxious to have it. And we're the policy, we're the party that's going to bring that forward. I look forward to that in the days ahead.
Really? Oh, okay. All right, Michael, but so what's good for everybody else, not good for Shreveport?
No, it's not good for Shreveport. Now, first of all, it's a few things. When they showed that video of that crime being committed there, that robbery, what they should have been doing is showing video of January 6th and crazy-ass white people assaulting police officers, because those are crimes also that need to be prosecuted, okay? And Donald Trump didn't even call the National Guard in on January 6th. So what we see here is Speaker Johnson obfuscating and playing on these tropes of when it comes to African-American ran cities, we need more police, not more resources, okay? Not more money for mental health, not more money for jobs and funding for after-school programs, things like this. And then Gavin Newsom is absolutely correct. Gavin Newsom's been hitting some home runs, attacking Donald Trump, attacking MAGA, but Gavin Newsom's absolutely correct. And here you have Johnson who ran away from taking the vote on the Epstein files and let the House go on recess one day early. Here you have him running away once again. But this is the game these people play, right? They want to crack down and send in the police when it deals with African Americans, but when it deals with Muffy and Buffy, now they want psychologists. Now they want to give them a second chance, things of this nature. Okay, so this is why people like Speaker Johnson, Mike Johnson, MAGA Mike, have to be voted out of office. You got to have African Americans need to exercise our retribution, reclaim power, have Retribution Day on Election Day. Vote these people out of office that keep doing us harm.
I just get a kick, Ben, how they don't want to address their own stuff. They don't want to talk about what's happening in their own backyard, but you want to talk about what's happening in D.C. and Chicago.
Absolutely. I mean, the hypocrisy is the point, right? Both of the brothers on the panel have stated that much. They want rules for thee, but not for me. They want to be able to target cities that are also led by Black leaders, right? That are led by Black officials and democratically led leaders. That gives them the opportunity to stretch their fascist arms with the National Guard and then protect themselves. But I think people should also know that this is structural. This is intentional. This is the plan. They won't balk. They won't blink. They won't care if they're called out on the hypocrisy. And Roland, thank you for bringing up John Berman and the lack of a follow-up. But it's so bad in media right now that I'm honestly quite surprised that CNN and John, they even posed the initial question. The initial question itself, showing that hypocrisy, is something that we really haven't gotten a chance to see in media in a very long time. But that said, for Republicans and MAGA, the hypocrisy is a structural point. They will be hypocritical all the way to the point where they have militarized Black communities and white communities go scot-free.
Well, and that's why what Gavin Newsom is doing is perfect. That is, put it on the table, and then what does it do? It forces CNN, it forces Fox News to have to ask the question. Folks, Donald Trump is crowing today because Missouri announced that they are going to call a special session to gerrymander their district. Now, they are trying to get rid of Congressman Emanuel Cleaver's congressional district in one more. It's a very red state. You only have two. You got Wesley Bell, who's African-American in St. Louis. You got Emanuel Cleaver in Kansas City. So don't be surprised if these Republicans try to wipe out those two districts. Republicans in Ohio are trying to do the exact same thing as well, and they're getting pushback there. And there was a redistricting commission, but they didn't give a damn about that. They're fighting the will of the people. My next guest knows this very well in terms of what's happening there. Lots of things going on there. What used to be a purple state is now decidedly red state, and so a lot of things are happening. You got Sherrod Brown announcing he is going to be running for the Senate seat vacated by J.D. Vance. So joining us right now is Shayla Davis, President and CEO of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. Glad to have you here. Again, lots happening there. What can be done to mobilize and organize this state? I mean, this used to be a battleground state. This used to be a state where Democrats competed on the presidential level. When you talk about the U.S. Senate level, we've seen the MAGA take over. What really happened here? How did Ohio go so red?
So Ohio, thanks for having me this evening, Roland. So Ohio is made up of 88 counties, and where we have an issue, our largest counties, which are Cuyahoga County and Franklin County, are the predominance of the Democratic counties. Well, Hamilton too, which is in Cincinnati, and then the other ones kind of play a part, but they don't factor heavily into that. And so what has happened is all of these other counties, these much smaller counties, have a higher voting turnout. And so a lot of it is because our urban districts, we are not showing up to the polls to vote. And so our Republican counterparts are taking advantage of that. But they're also manipulating the system.
So again, what we're talking about here is, and we saw this actually when in Florida, when Andrew Gillum ran, and if you looked at the top 15 voting counties, I think the first 12 were red. And so what that says is, if they're not turning out in urban areas, then what is being done to reach those voters? Talk to those voters. Look, I'll be honest. Listen, when Tim Ryan ran against J.D. Vance, Tim Ryan didn't do a damn thing to really try to get black folks. I was texting him directly saying, hey, I'll come in. I asked this at a music festival. And then on the election day, all of a sudden, he wants to wake up and say, hey, we got a black people. Well, you didn't do a damn thing to recruit the black people. And so that's also part of the problem.
Yeah, for sure. And so let me just say this about Tim Ryan. So I was a state rep at the time when he was running, and he wouldn't even acknowledge me at a public meeting. So there's that. But the reality is that.
But isn't he trying to run for governor now?
He's
supposedly.
Not.
But go ahead.
Supposedly, but look who we have. We have this Vivek guy. I mean, and that's just a problem. And so the issue that we're having is that we've got to re-energize our black voters. We've got to own our power. And so the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus Foundation is spending time in the community. That's why I'm here on your short show today, to get people informed, to understand that we have the power. If we can just simply look at what we've done with Target, we can do that same thing with our voting power. If we were able to do this with our dollar, we can do this with our voting power in Ohio and take some control. Also, redistricting is coming back around. Remember, we set the tone, right, with the congressional maps in 2022. That's how I got ousted out of my seat, but that's another story. And so we're coming right back up on that. They delayed the vote, but they have to vote on that by September 30th of 2025. So we've got about, 32 days? And the legislature has to make a decision on what those maps are going to look like. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens when we go back. They have the majority power. And if you look at the redistricting commission, it's a 7-member body. There's only 2 Democrats because our entire state leadership is GOP. So you have the governor who sits on that commission, you have the secretary of state, you have the auditor of the state, you have the speaker of the House, you have the president of the Senate, then you have the Senate minority leader and the House minority leader. Those are the only 2 Democrats. So actually, it doesn't matter what the Democrats do in terms of their vote, they still have the majority. That's 3/4 the vote. So the Republicans can pass whatever they want without our input. So we have got to get out in these midterm elections and turn this thing around. But we also have to have money for black folk to run. That's the other issue too.
So you're saying that what you're dealing with is Republicans have a supermajority in Ohio.
Yep, absolutely.
And so the same problem we saw in Texas, you see the same thing in Ohio.
Absolutely, 10,000%.
But also when voting comes in, listen, you had a Supreme Court that was stopping those Republicans, but now conservatives dominate your Supreme Court.
Absolutely. They wiped everybody out. And what do we do with that, right? And let's just be honest. So Governor DeWine, our current governor, his son, Pat DeWine, sits on the Ohio Supreme Court. So there's just all kind of things that are happening, and we are focused on so many other things. So I'll share this with you. I also serve on the Ohio Elections Commission. So I'm the vice chair. We oversee campaign finance violations for all candidates, all elected officials across the state of Ohio. Anyone can bring a case before us. It can be an average citizen, secretary of state, it could be, or boards of elections, right? And so House Bill 96 is the budget bill that just passed here in July. The minority leader who sits on the finance committee, Brian Stewart, was before us for a case. If you remember House Bill 6, that had everything to do with Larry Householder and all of that, where there were multiple people that came before us. Ironically, he's the same guy that our staff has to go to get appropriations to continue our organization, our department moving forward, right, for the next fiscal year. So guess what he did? He zeroed us out of the budget. The Ohio Elections Commission goes away. There is no money to fund us. We're gone December 31st. So now there's no accountability for the elections either. And no one's talking about that. They literally just took us out of the budget. That is retaliatory legislation. It has nothing to do with good governance. And the fact that he didn't recuse himself so that it could have been fair is a problem. But the GOP is doing whatever they want.
Right, because they don't believe in fair. In fact, earlier, Stuart Stevens, longtime Republican, I saw this tweet from him that I thought was interesting. This is what he said. He said, when Democrats take the House, they must understand they are not a governing party. They are a dissident movement. He said, act like it. First day, cut off all funding of executive branch. Vote to nationalize Starlink and SpaceX. Defund ICE. That's the first day. On the second, get more aggressive. There's nothing in the middle of the road but yellow lines and dead armadillos. But see, what you just said there is that what Democrats do, Democrats believe in fairness,
morality.
Let's play nice. So what you just said right there, cut the funding? Okay, that's what you do. I mean, if you're going to play hardball, you play hardball.
Absolutely. The power of the purse, right? That's what we learned back in when we learned about civics and social studies. It's the power of the purse. So the legislative body has the ability to control that. We have to stop playing nice. They're not playing nice with us at all. And especially for Black folk, right? We're getting played on both sides of all of this if we're being really honest about it.
So what is your plan? Listen, what I keep saying to folks is that the place where we're at right now, we have to be in what I call a educate, enlighten, and inform stage. And so what is happening? What is happening? And when we talk about Ohio, we talk about Black folks voting, or what are we talking about? We're talking Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, Akron, Dayton,
Toledo.
Okay, so what is being done to do what we're talking about? Who's doing it? If somebody's watching in Ohio right now and say, hey, all right, I want to get involved, who do they call? Who do they email?
The Ohio Legislative Black Caucus Foundation, olbcffoundation.org. We are right now running a campaign. It's the state of Black Ohio. We are going around the state doing town halls, and we're kind of spinning this a little bit with the Black Caucus as well. We just started 2 weeks ago in Springfield, Ohio. That is notoriously red, but Springfield, Ohio is next to Dayton, right? And so what we're trying to do, there were over 300 people that showed up at that town hall, 300 Black people. So Black people are invested and interested, but we've got to make them feel reconnected. So we've got to engage at the grassroots level. And so my goal is to get to as many cities and as many counties as we can through the end of the year, as many as we can before November, just for people to realize that we see them and that they are not alone. Because when they're sitting out in these very small red counties, they feel very isolated.
Right.
We've got a town, Lima, Ohio. So when I was in the legislature, the Speaker of the House was there. It's a very small town. They just got their first Black mayor like 3 years ago, but they're not used to us showing up for them. So even though there's a small population of Democrats, they don't feel that their votes matter, even though they're voting. So we've just got to show up in numbers and to keep people motivated, because what's happening will not change. It will not get better. We have to vote. We have no other choice. And so that is why we are going across the state, and we are doing the State of Black Ohio Town Hall, the voter's voice. We want you to know that we care. And I'm bringing the legislators along with me, because they have to stand there. They have to listen and hear. People have to feel valued and respected. But we got to do something to change this around. We cannot continue to sit back. That's the scope of what I can do. And then we're also working on the State of Black Ohio report, right? Where we're using these town halls to collect data and trying to turn that data into public policy. But I'll be honest with you, Roland, and just like you said, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what policy I write, what legislation I get the legislative body to introduce. Guess who moves the legislation forward? The Senate President or the Speaker of the House, which is all GOP. So if they don't want it to move, it's not going anywhere. We've got to get them out of office. We've got to gain a few more seats, which we did pick up last year. We picked up 2 additional seats in the Democratic caucus, but we've got to do more than that.
Yeah.
They still have a supermajority.
Well, so the first thing you got to do is you got to break the supermajority. So here's the question I have before I go to my panel with questions for you. What is their margin in the House? What is their margin in the Senate?
The Senate has 7 Democrats out of 34. And we have, Roland, you got me on that one. I think we have 28 Democrats in the House now. And so it's a body of 99. So there's 71 GOP.
Damn.
So it's bad. It's bad. It's bad.
So to break the supermajority, so you said 28 House Dems?
28 House Dems.
And so to break the supermajority, what's the number?
We probably need what? We need about 43 seats. So that's a lot.
Wow.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a whole lot.
A whole lot. But we just got to get one bite at a time.
First, obviously, House seats and Senate seats, I mean, how those are gerrymandered. But the thing that jumps up the most is you can win the governor's mansion. I mean, statewide is statewide. You can win these statewide elections. That's what's critical.
Yes, very true. Very true. And I wish Sherrod would have ran for governor. And this is not to denounce who we have currently, Amy Acton. If you guys recall, back during the pandemic, Ohio was on the map for being the first to respond. She was our public health director, where they terminated her and ousted her out of the office because we had all these MAGA supporters who didn't believe that, that you should wear a mask, who didn't believe in getting the vaccination, all the things that Kennedy clown is saying in D.C. So she's now running for governor. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think she has a strong chance. We need a white man to win in Ohio, and that's the reality. This is Ohio.
Wow. Panel, Ben, you first.
Wow. Yeah, no, I'm still grappling with the fact that you all need a white man there, and I understand that dynamic. I'm not challenging that. I'm just really taken aback by that reality in 2025, which makes me ask the question, what do you feel is the most demoralizing factor that has depressed the Black voter turnout? And is anyone in the state, politically speaking, addressing those factors? Are they doing anything to actually encourage Black voters to come out, in addition to obviously the fascism that we're fighting right now?
Yeah. I think, it's the same way that I feel, depleted and depressed. Everything we do, those of us who are doing what we need to do, it still seems as if it doesn't matter. So I understand that perspective. However, I'm in the game, so I understand that we can't be defeated. We've got to continue to fight. And that's why I'm here. That's why the Black Caucus Foundation exists. And so what we have to do is to continue to get to every person that we can. These town halls are impactful. For 300 Black people to come out in Springfield, that's a number I didn't even know existed. So they want to be seen. They want to be heard. We just got to go to where they are. And we haven't done a good job of that, right? Because when you think about running for state office, you can't necessarily reach all of your constituents. As a councilwoman, I had 4,000 people in my ward here in the city that I live in. I still couldn't get to all of those doors, but we've got to be intentional, right? We've got to realize that one vote, one more seat makes a difference, and we got to keep fighting at it. And as long as we encourage people and they see us, I think they will get back on board. But we've got to show up. And we've got to talk about the reality of what's happening. Because when I look at what's happening in healthcare, my daughter, who's 31 years old, right? She has a child. She just got cut off of Medicaid. She had to take her employer's insurance. But that's going to be such a deficit now for her income. And that's the unfortunate reality that we have to deal with. So it's impacting everyone. It doesn't matter the position that I have. It's the fact that I am a Black woman and that my family still experiences these exact same challenges as every other Black family, every other poor family in the country, but also here in Ohio. Everybody's quiet.
Let's go to Matt.
Yeah, so I have probably, a weird question, but I actually went to law school in Toledo. And I mention that because every time I think of Ohio, I feel like Ohio has a much larger Black population than the numbers represent. So I guess my question is, in terms of positives and ways that you see the tide turning, how do you leverage that? And I ask because when you're in major cities in Ohio, I feel like you see a lot more Black people than you do in a lot of other states in big cities. And that seems to me to be leverageable from like a representation standpoint. So I'm interested in how the organizing looks on the ground and what you've seen as the positives, because it's not an overwhelmingly large state. So it looks like you should be able to really galvanize support there in a way you might not in a Texas or a larger state. What are your thoughts in that respect?
And so I'll say 13% of Ohio is a Black population. So it is still pretty small, right? However, as I shared, we had about 24 Dems. We had 24 Dems in 2020. I'm trying to think of the time, 2023. And so we picked up 4 more seats in 2022. We picked up 4 more seats in 2025. They were in Franklin County. Franklin County has almost 1 million in its population, and 2 of those districts were Black. So we have 2 Somalian representatives that we've never had in the Ohio legislature. So it is increasing. While Cuyahoga County, where I'm from, which is, Cleveland, Cleveland falls under that. We're shrinking in population, the city of Cleveland itself, but Franklin County is expanding, is growing. So we've got to heavily concentrate there. But to Roland's point, we've got to look at these statewide seats. If we can take over the administration, it can kind of, it can balance some of what the legislature is trying to do. However, though, if you look at what just happened with House Bill 96 and our budget passing, the governor line item vetoed so many things, got rid of so much. They called everyone back to session 2 weeks later in the House, and they overrode the governor's veto. Now it's waiting for the Senate to do that when they go back to session next week, but we'll see what happens from there. So these guys are calculated. They don't care. They're going to do exactly what they want to do. And so we've got to continue to fight. And so as the population increases, we've got to make sure that those maps are aligned. How do we do that when we've got the Supreme Court against us and they have a majority on the redistricting commission? It's about getting the word out for people to be aware and to understand what's actually happening here.
Yeah.
Michael?
I don't hear any. Okay. All right. Shayla, the question I have for you is, well, a couple questions. In the town halls that you've had in your conversations with African Americans in Ohio, what are some of the issues, policies that are galvanizing them, that are causing them to say, yes, I need to vote? Number one. And number two, are there any conversations taking place about Project 2025, how 47% of it, about 47% has already been implemented by this administration, and people possibly who thought Project 2025 was a hoax before the election realized, oh, this is real?
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say that when I'm talking to folk, what I'm hearing the most is affordable housing. That's a tremendous issue across the nation, but it's also impacting the majority of the urban areas in Ohio, right? And workforce development. People are struggling to get jobs. The state gave all of this money to this Intel project that I guess the feds have now taken up, and they walked away. They walked away. You look at the $600 million that our state in House Bill 96 just gave the Haslam, which owns the Browns, right? That's our money. And so people are looking at that. They're realizing that they're outpriced. People don't have a place to live. They can't afford to live for this working blue collar state that still exists. And so that is what is getting people activated, right? Because people want to be able to eat. People, they don't want to end up in a scarcity mode. And it's interesting you say that, because when we have our community action agency centers across the state, and so the predominance of them are in rural communities, because we have 88 counties and we only have like 8 major counties. And so the predominance are in these very poor, rural, extremely rural communities. We even have some rural areas that don't even have proper piping, right, to get water inside of their homes. So that's how bad it is here in Ohio still in certain areas. But they are reaching out. They're concerned now about what their health care is going to look like. They're concerned about the food being cut, SNAP benefits being cut, and children not having access to the school lunches. What are their children going to eat? So guess who they're looking at to help them solve those issues? Who do they come to? Always the trusted Black folk.
Right.
So they are interested in as well. And so I have hope that that could be somewhat helpful in these very small rural communities, but the numbers are so small. When you look at our smallest community has 12,000 people in it. And so that's not a huge number of folk voting when you're talking about, a state with millions of folk in it.
Well, it sounds to me like y'all need the Moral Mondays that Bishop Barber was leading in North Carolina, and that change, that really impacted a lot of those white communities, because the issues they were raising, they realized, oh, this ain't a Black thing, this is a people thing, a poor people thing, and it's a bunch of broke-ass white folks in Ohio who need to understand, and they're voting against their own economic interest.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. We appreciate it. Last question. When y'all doing these town halls, are y'all live streaming those town halls?
We are not, but we will start. We will start. I mean, look, Roland, I'm not good with technology.
No,
but
no. Listen, y'all got to live stream. You got to live stream the town halls because the reality is, if the person can't get there, they're working or whatever, and y'all can be reaching more people. So, yeah, you got my number. Send me a text so I can walk y'all through how to do this.
I promise I am, because we're doing the next one the 1st of October when I get back from the CBC. So I will be reaching out to you.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Have
a lot.
Good night. Take care. Bye.
Folks, going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Soon to the Black Star Network.
I have name recognition, but I tour more than any rapper. And it's a lot of overseas stuff. And it's like I'm going all over I've been to 80 countries in my lifetime. And sometimes I'll do interviews with people and they be like, so what you been doing? Like, what you been doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just came back from Belgium and Brazil and South Africa. What you been doing?
Right.
Now that Roland Martin is willing to give me the blueprint, hey, Cyrus, I need to go to Tyler Perry and get another blueprint because I need some green money. The only way I can do what I'm doing, I need to make some money. So you'll see me working with Roland. Matter of fact, it's the Roland Martin and Cheryl Underwood show. Well, should it be the Cheryl Underwood show and the Roland Martin show? Well, whatever show it's going to be good.
All right, there's nothing more delusional than these idiots working for Donald Trump who believe that he should get the Nobel Peace Prize. Oh, they're claiming he did all these amazing, incredible, unbelievable things, ending wars, ending famine, bringing peace together, bringing the Fat Boys back together as a group, reconciling the Commodores as well. Oh, he has just been doing all of this. Listen to one of his cabinet members. This was at that Putin-like cabinet meeting where they just heap praises on the dear leader. Listen to this crackhead.
And we hope to settle them before the end of this year. Your team is nothing short of incredible. And there's only one thing I wish for, that Nobel Committee finally gets its act together and realizes that you are the single finest candidate since the this Nobel Award was ever talked about to receive that reward. Beyond your success is game-changing out in the world today. And I hope everybody one day wakes up and realizes that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Did y'all miss that? Did this crackhead say that? Okay, maybe I heard that wrong. Maybe did he say ever? Let me play it again because maybe I was hearing something a little different, and maybe y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, go.
And we hope to settle them before the end of this year. Your team is nothing short of incredible. And there's only one thing I wish for, that Nobel Committee finally gets its act together and realizes that you are the single finest candidate since the this Nobel Award was ever talked about, finally gets its act together and realizes that you are the single finest candidate since the this Nobel Award was ever talked about to receive that reward.
So this crackhead actually believes that awarding the Nobel Peace Prize to Donald Trump is greater than Dr. King getting it. It is greater than Nelson Mandela and Botha, is greater than Mother Teresa. Now, I've seen people high. I've seen people who drink in the middle of the day. I fly a lot. I see people ordering Bloody Marys and other drinks with alcohol at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. That ignorant shit we just showed, you got to, I know that man got home and his wife went, "Are you that stupid? Ever? Ever?" Here's old lying-ass Press Secretary Carolyn Levitt. Listen to her dumb ass.
The president has now ended conflicts between Thailand and Cambodia, Israel and Iran, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, India and Pakistan, Serbia and Kosovo, and Egypt and Ethiopia. This means President Trump has brokered, on average, about one peace deal or ceasefire per month during his 6 months in office. It's well past time that President Trump was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize.
This is a new lip balm. I don't think I have enough to cover the ass kissing you just heard there. First of all, who campaigns for a Nobel? Don't nobody openly campaign for a Nobel Peace Prize. That's when you know your little silly ass is desperate. See, he really mad because they gave one to Obama. Now, first of all, that was stupid. Obama did not deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. He didn't. He didn't earn it. He didn't deserve it. But that's really what it's all about. This dumbass is infatuated with Nobel Peace Prize. But I came across this video of an anchor in India. Now, y'all know I love me some shade. Oh, do I love being petty. And I don't even know her name, but she has absolutely earned the moniker Queen Petty of India. Roll it.
If only Donald Trump was president in the 20th century, so much could have been avoided. The First World War, the Second World War, the nuclear arms race, the Cold War, Trump could have prevented all of it. After all, his surname is Ceasefire. We know that all politicians are full of themselves. They can be arrogant and boastful. But Trump is one step ahead. He is shamelessly full of himself. And we saw an example of that yesterday. The White House openly demanded a Nobel Peace Prize for Donald Trump. Listen to this.
The president has now ended conflicts between Thailand and Cambodia, Israel and Iran, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, India and Pakistan, Serbia and Kosovo, and Egypt and Ethiopia. This means President Trump has brokered, on average, about one peace deal or ceasefire per month during his 6 months in office. It's well past time that President Trump was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize.
I think she missed a few there, like Tom and Jerry, Harry Potter and Voldemort, Batman and the Joker, and Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. If you're going to make fake claims, might as well go all in. It's been a hallmark of Donald Trump. He claims credit for everything. What's worse, he wants global recognition for it. In other words, he wants the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, just to be clear, a lot of unworthy people have received this prize. A lot of unworthy people have also been nominated for it. But none of them asked for it. I mean, this is not a reality TV contest. It's not like you can send an SMS to Norway nominating Donald Trump. You must let your actions speak. So let's look at Trump's actions. We mentioned his bombing record earlier on the show. Trump has dropped 530 bombs in 6 months. To put that in context, his predecessor, Joe Biden, dropped 555 bombs over his whole presidency, 4 years. Trump has dropped 530 in 6 months. Not very peaceful, is it? Let's also look at aid cuts. Trump has cut 80% of America's foreign aid. That's almost $60 billion of help. And we are talking about life-saving help, like vaccination campaigns, remote health centers, public health services, and medicine distribution. What will be the impact of these cuts? Medical journal Lancet has done some research. They say the aid cuts could cause 14 million deaths by 2030. I'll repeat that for you. 14 million deaths due to Trump's aid cut. And a third of those are children. Does this sound like a peace laureate to you? Does this sound like a respectable statesman? The answer is no. Someone tell Trump that typing in all caps is not diplomacy, plus it's out of fashion. Gen Z would be horrified by the all caps. This is the era of small Ks. But coming back to his credit fever, as a species, we should be more thankful to Trump. Thanks to his negotiations with God, the sun rises every day. Thanks to his mediation, ships can sail on the ocean. If not for him, gravity would not exist. Give us a break. Americans can vote for whoever they want to. Just don't expect the world to fall in line. I can think of a dozen people who deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. Trump is certainly not one of them. And I'll tell you what disqualifies him. It's not just what he is doing now. It's what he will do if he wins the prize. I can guarantee that Trump will sell a Nobel experience at Mar-a-Lago. You can come, click pictures with the prize and go, just $500. Chances are he will also sell Nobel-themed belt buckles and baseball cards. Again, just $100 each. But jokes aside, there are too many reasons to disqualify Trump. You've got casual sexism. You've got sexual assault allegations. You've got casual racism. You've got Islamophobia. And you've got actual warmongering. Take your pick. There are two kinds of leaders in this world. One who leave the world a better place, the other who leave it worse than they found it, and Trump is clearly in category 2. We suggest he take up a new obsession and leave us alone. In fact, I've got an idea. There is a country in Africa with vast reserves of rare earth elements. It's called Wakanda. If US officials are listening, get Trump on the job. Urge him to sign a deal with them. If anyone can, it's Donald Diplomacy Trump.
What?
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Oh my God!
The champ is here! The champ is here!
Ben!
The champ is here!
Did she lay into his ass or what?
And she did it so calmly, so matter of fact. She didn't have to be bombastic or even raise her voice. She laid out the facts. I think what's wildest about this, Roland, is the fact that so many grown human adults actively cater to this behavior. All of the people who are in his cabinet, all the people who serve underneath them, like, do they have no sense of self-respect? How could you grovel for anybody? I'm sorry, just we're adults. There is no groveling for another human being. Right? But they do it actively every day. And they don't just do it because they have to. They go above and beyond. That first clip of the guy you called crackhead like 10 times, he really went above and beyond to make sure that Donald Trump could emotionally feel how committed he was to worshiping Trump and that Trump gets this Nobel Peace Prize. Last but not least, you were so right to pull up the fact that he is just, again, jealous of Barack Obama. And thank you for saying that Barack Obama didn't deserve it. He hadn't done anything to earn it at that point, but that still doesn't make Donald Trump feel any better about not measuring up to the president.
This man really does have small body parts, Matt. I mean, the ego is just, I mean, he small hands, small brains, little feet, but some big ass ankles.
I will take your word for that, brother. But what I will say that is interesting is, one, she eviscerated him, and the piece was funny but also poignant. But what's interesting is before she went to the slide on USAID, that's actually what I thought about. And I thought about like the soft power losses that we've seen. I mean, if you take away aid from people, you are per se not a peacemonger, if you will. And first, I want to mention Dr. Ralph Bunch wants to enter the chat, right? Because you want to talk about somebody who deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, it's him. But what's interesting about this is emblematic of all of the almost soft authoritarian ways that we're seeing Donald Trump act, right? For instance, I'm going to become the board of the chairman at the Kennedy Center. I'm going to be the head of this. I'm going to be the head of that. Like very dear leader almost. And it's interesting that we're talking about this now because right before I got on the show, I was driving in from a court appearance up in Huntsville, and I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about how the Solicitor General, John Sauer, just filed some pleading where he basically just lionizes Trump and said basically he's got the unique deal-making skills to make America, you know, a beacon of light again. I mean, all this flowery language that you never see the Solicitor General file about an individual because he or she generally represents the people of the United States, not the president. But this is something we're seeing emblematic of this administration. And to kind of hearken to what Ben was saying, I mean, they are bending over backwards to kiss this man's butt. And by the way, I like the Blistex. I didn't know where you were going with that, but that was a very nice segue. But in any event, we're seeing that across this administration. And that to me is one of the most insidious hallmarks of the dictatorial rhetoric and the dictatorial bend we're seeing from this White House, and that we are seeing people who are in his contingent of supporters lapping up. And it's a very strange thing to me because it's very North Korean, dear leader, but they seem to be lapping it up.
I missed it. You said you liked what?
Oh, the Blistex, the lip balm.
Oh,
I
gotcha.
didn't know where you were going with that. I like that though. That was
Gotcha.
well done.
I know. I heard you. I just wanted to make you say it again.
Okay. I like it, brother. All right.
Michael, go ahead.
We never did compliment.
Yeah, so that was a great takedown that the reporter in India did of Donald Trump. But she forgot one conflict Donald Trump did solve, and that's between the Autobots and the Decepticons. She forgot about that one. Okay, so when we look at Donald Trump, once again, yes, he's still envious of former President Barack Obama. That's why he wants a Nobel Peace Prize. Steve Witkoff needs to realize, because it sounded like Steve said Nobel Peace Prize. It's the Nobel Peace Prize, Steve Witkoff. But yes, that was more fawning. And
now you know his ass can't read. Hell, he can't spell it.
Exactly. These are the people Trump surrounds himself with. Okay. But the New York Times had a good analysis because I even heard Stephen, what's his name? What's that boy's name on ESPN? I forgot the sportscaster.
Stephen A. Smith.
I even heard him. Stephen A. Smith. Right. You're right. Stephen A. Smith. I'm not sure what the A stands for, but I even heard him try to give credit to Trump for solving all these wars, things like this. But actually, New York Times has a good analysis of them. And when you look at a lot of them, like the Armenia and Azerbaijan, or even Rwanda and the Congo that we talked about here on the show, those are like agreements towards a firm peace agreement, things like this. But fighting still continues, especially in Rwanda and the Congo. So even wars that he claims to have solved, okay, in 7 months are not solved, okay? And notice they don't say anything about Gaza. They don't say anything about Israel and Gaza, okay, because that's a disaster. And it's gotten even worse since he's been in office. But once again, and Matt hit on it, dealing with USAID, because right now Trump is talking about cutting, I think it's another $4.9 billion in foreign aid. But because of the cuts to USAID, 300,000 people worldwide have already died because of those cuts. And we know that tens of thousands of them are on the continent of Africa. So how could you claim to bring peace when you sided with Elon Musk in cutting aid that actually kills people? So I don't even understand what you're really talking about.
I want to show y'all something which is kind of important because, you know, we're sitting here and we're clearly showing how delusional this dumbass is. But I want folk to understand when we talk about the Nobel Peace Prize. And we talk about how serious they take the Peace Prize and how, again, the people who have received it, these are not people who have been desperately campaigning, trying to get one. Folks who have been, sitting here just going crazy. See, again, when you're dealing with an idiot who absolutely just wants to be lavish with praise, this is the website, nobelprize.org. The Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded 105 times to 142 Nobel Prize laureates between 1901 and 2024, 111 individuals and 31 organizations. Since the International Committee of the Red Cross has been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize 3 times, in 1917, 1944, and 1963, and the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees has been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize 2 times, in 1954 and 1981. There are 28 individual organizations which have been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Just click the links to get more information. Nobel Peace Prize 2025 has not been awarded yet. It will be announced on Friday, October 10th at 11 o'clock in the morning. So when you go down here, folks, look at this. Nahan Hidekyo, for its efforts to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons and for demonstrating through witness testimony that nuclear weapons must never be used again. Look at this. Narges Mohammadi, for her fight against the oppression of women in Iran and her fight to promote human rights and freedom for all. And then you go down here, Center for Civil Liberties, and then you begin to look at World Food Program, and you look at again, look at this here. Nuclear weapons, ending a 50-year civil war, for their struggle against the suppression of children and young people, and for the right of all children to be educated. Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. Ellen Johnson, Sirleaf, Lima Gubawe, and Tawakal Carmen for their nonviolent struggle for the safety of women and for women's rights to full participation in peace-building work. I mean, you go on and on and on and on and on. And you look at the names on here, International Atomic Energy Agency as well. Again, and you look at these names, you see President Jimmy Carter for his decades of untiring efforts to find peaceful solutions to international conflicts, to advance democracy and human rights, and to promote economic and social development. United Nations and Kofi Annan. And you got Doctors Without Borders, and then you International Campaign to Ban Landmines and Jody Williams, and you begin to, again, you see Yasser Arafat, Shimon Peres, and Yitzhak Rabin for their efforts to create peace in the Middle East. Nelson Mandela, I said both, it was early, F.W. de Klerk, for their work to the peaceful termination of the apartheid regime and for laying the foundations for a new democratic South Africa. And then you go Mikhail Gorbachev for the leading role he played in the radical changes in East-West relations, the 14th Dalai Lama, United Nations peacekeeping forces. Eli Wiesel for being a messenger to mankind. His message is of one peace, atonement, and dignity. International Physicians for the prevention of nuclear war. Bishop Desmond Tutu for his role as a unifying leader figure in the nonviolent campaign to resolve the problems of apartheid in South Africa. Lech Walesa, the solidarity leader, Czechoslovakia, I see in Poland there for nonviolent struggle for free trade unions and human rights in Poland. I mean, again, when you Mother Teresa for her work for bringing help to suffering humanity, Anwar Sadat, Menachem Begin for jointly having negotiated peace between Egypt and Israel in 1978, Amnesty International, and then you go down here and you see again these Henry Kissinger, his punk ass, but that warmonger, may he rest in hell. And the International Labor Organization. And again, 1967, no Nobel Peace Prize awarded, or 1966, United Nations Children's Fund. Dr. King for his nonviolent struggle for civil rights for the Afro-American population, the Red Cross. And again, you go on and on and on, and you see these names, and you see what people did. And I'm just going to scroll all the way down just to be able to show. Folks, I'm telling you right now, there is no way in hell that Donald Trump's name should ever be mentioned in the same breath, a whisper, as any of these people in organizations. The man has no morals, no values, no decency, no ethics. He has none of this. None of this. He's a shameful, pathetic, narcissistic insurrectionist. Giving him the Nobel Peace Prize is essentially saying, let me award the arsonist another can of gasoline to burn more things. Donald Trump can straight go to hell when it comes to think that he's a Nobel Peace Prize, even nominating him for a Nobel Peace Prize. The person must be shameful. So, trust me, he ain't getting it. I'm gonna do a quick break. When we come back, you know the racist Republican Party, they just love them some Confederates. Pete Hegseth, he's back, and so is Robert E. Lee. I'll tell you about it next.
This week on The Other Side of Change,
300,000 Black women being pushed out of the workforce.
this is shocking yet unsurprising.
So what happens when a bunch of Black mothers lose their federal job? Their kids are not being fed, their kids are not being taken care of, but that trickles down to the entire community structure, which may be built on the backs of Black mothers and Black women more broadly.
Tune in on The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Russell L. Honoré, Lieutenant General, United States Army, retired, and you're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Why are Republicans so silent on this story? A white North Carolina Elections Board chairman has been charged with drugging his granddaughters. James Edwin Yokely Jr.'s two juvenile granddaughters found 2 pills in ice cream that they had purchased from Dairy Queen. Investigators reviewed surveillance footage which revealed that Yokely himself had placed the pills in the ice cream. The pills tested positive for MDMA and cocaine. Is it? First of all, y'all going right. If you're gonna sit here, do y'all know what MDMA is? Isn't that the date rape drug? Oh no, that's ecstasy. It's ecstasy. As a result, he's been arrested and charged with contaminating food or drink with a controlled substance, felony possession of Schedule I narcotics, and felony child abuse. He was booked into the New Hanover County Detention Center and later released on a $100,000 bond. In June, Yokely, Republican, was appointed chairman of the Surrey County Board of Elections in North Carolina. Wow, that's how they do it in North Carolina, huh, Ben?
Absolutely out of control, Roland. When I look at this and you think about how much energy MAGA has put into calling everyone a groomer except the actual groomers, calling everyone a pedophile except the actual pedophiles. They have expressed concern about the Epstein list until they realized Donald Trump's name was on the list. This goes back to the first story that we talked about, or rather the second one with Mike Johnson. The hypocrisy is the point. They don't genuinely care about protecting people, children especially, from predators because predators filled their ranks. And I can't even really think about the story in the details. Like, what was this man's plan? What are you doing?
Yeah, his plan was he was going to rape his granddaughters. He was going to rape his granddaughters.
Right. Your granddaughters, your children, period. Your children, your so this is the level of depravity that actually exists in this country, right? And it's not germane just to Republicans, to be sure. This is something that infects too many circles of the United States in this planet. But when you see a party present themselves as someone who cares about these issues and wages an entire culture war against the LGBTQIA community as if being LGBTQIA makes you this type of depraved, and then you see it in their ranks over and over and over again. It simply reminds me of all the pastors and priests and bishops that we see reported in the news that carry out this kind of behavior.
Insane. Oh, how about this one? The U.S. Air Force, because of this idiot Trump, they're now offering full military honors for January 6th rioter Ashley Babbitt. Remember the one she was killed trying to break into the U.S. Capitol? Oh, yeah. Y'all remember this video right here? Her damn ass deserved it. Yeah, roll it. They told him, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. The cops are standing on the other side with guns, telling them, turn the audio up, y'all.
There's a gun! There's a gun!
Tell them, don't do it. Look at that. They got the gun. dumbass. She was killed, 35 years old. And then what dumbass Trump was doing? Giving her military honors. Right, she was trying to breach the Capitol. Y'all, she was draped in a Trump campaign flag when attempted to climb through the shattered window. And then, U.S. Capitol Police Lieutenant Michael Byrd hit her with the heat, fired a single shot, dead. The Department of Justice and Capitol Police cleared Byrd of any wrongdoing, saying he acted within the bounds of his duty. Yeah, you think? But Michael, this is what happens when you deal with an insurrectionist.
Yeah, not only an insurrectionist, but an insurrectionist who was bosom buddies with a pedophile as well. So anything to distract from the Epstein files, okay? And this is more red meat to his base as the price of goods continues to go up, as the price of back to school products continues to go up, and the price of groceries continue to go up. Anything to distract from that, to throw red meat to the MAGA base, because this is something that they want. While at the same time, you're sending the National Guard to Washington, D.C., you're preparing to send the National Guard to crack down on crime in Chicago, okay? You're going to honor this person who was trying to breach the Capitol, okay? But this is what we expect from the traitor-in-chief who, committed treason, basically. This is what we expect from somebody like this.
Well, this is also what we expect. The Pentagon, they plan to reinstate a 20-foot-tall portrait of white domestic terrorist, racist Confederate General Robert E. Lee at the United States Military Academy, West Point. The painting, which features a depiction of a slave guiding Lee's horse, was displayed at West Point for 70 years before being removed under Biden. But under white nationalist Pappy Trump, it will now be hung in the Academy's library. Thank you to Pete Hegseth. This decision comes despite a recommendation from a congressionally mandated commission that ordered its removal in 2020. Memorials to Robert E. Lee, a known slaveholder, have long been a source of controversy. Since 2020, numerous monuments to Lee and other Confederate figures have been removed by advocates who argue that these memorials celebrate white supremacy and celebrate white domestic terrorists. I guess we know exactly what side Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, and Fox News is on, Matt.
Yeah, and they'll just tell you that it's just about tradition and history. And it's so interesting that we're having this conversation because I was talking politics with a friend of mine the other day, and he was noticing something I'd never noticed down here. If you come to the beach down here where I live, when I first moved here, I used to see Confederate flags all the time. But now you know what you see instead? Trump flags.
Because they're the same.
And it's interesting. They're the same, exactly. But it's almost like the MAGA flags are a more palatable way for people, or at least have been a more palatable way for people to tell you that they're racist without the fear of being called racist because they got the Confederate flag. And this is one of the things that I'm definitely not thankful for, this rhetoric being out, but I appreciate that there's nothing nebulous about this. I mean, we know this. There's an attack on blackness. There's an attack on black people in vaulted positions. But this is crazy, right? Like, I mean, if you look at it, these are the people who talk about America first, being whatever, jingoistic, as patriotic as you can be, and they lionize people who literally seceded from the United States. Like, one of these things is not like the other. And when you put a painting up like this, or when you in Midland, Texas, you rename the high school after Robert E. Lee, you are telling black people, we do not care about the history of where you were enslaved. Like, no, you were enslaved, and not only do we not care about it, more than that, we are going to lionize and glorify that time. That's what this is, right? This is glorification of it. And in some ways, it's helpful to know that there's no ambiguity about that. But it is, it's abhorrent. And I don't understand. I mean, I think Michael mentioned it earlier. It's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, these are the same originalists or people who talk about originalism. And treason is one of the original crimes, right? And the idea that you can storm the Capitol as an enemy of the sitting, Congress is extraordinary, right? Like, that's about as inconsistent with the framers' view of things, if you want to be a person who's an originalist, and nonetheless, we're lionizing those. Ashley Babbitt's getting full military honors. It's bizarro world. But when you are the one controlling the goalpost, you move it anytime it needs to be advantageous for you and your whiteness or white nationalism or whatever it is you're peddling at that time. And that's exactly what we're seeing with this iconography of Robert E. Lee being hung at West Point. I mean, it's crazy.
Speaking of moving the goalposts, we're going to end the show with this level of stupidity. It's always amazing to me to listen to somebody on Fox News try to call somebody else out for lying when they literally kiss the ass of the liar-in-chief every single day. And one of the chief ass kissers on Fox News is Will Cain. He actually thought that he was being direct and being a journalist and challenging Governor Wes Moore about his Bronze Star. Watch this.
In 2006, on your application for a White House fellowship, you put on your application that you were the recipient of a Bronze Star, I believe also with a combat action badge. That was not true. You have apologized and said it was an honest mistake. Here's what President Trump said. Did Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, lie about getting his Bronze Star? The question, Governor, is why did you let it go on, even if it was a mistake, for years and years and years as you were celebrated as having a Bronze Star?
I'm very proud of my service to this country. And I think, and I'm not sure if you've served, Will, but I think as anyone who has served in this country, if you look at what we were able to do overseas and the fact that I was recognized by the United States Army with both the Bronze Star and the Combat Action Badge, I think I'm not only proud of the service that I have done to this country and the fact that I was willing to put my life on the line, wear the uniform of this country, overseas and lead soldiers, but I also know that the soldiers that I serve with are also proud. And also I know that most soldiers and most veterans know the ridiculousness of this line, and especially when they know that as someone who's actually led soldiers in combat and someone who's actually led led people overseas, and to know that the United States Army actually recognized me with these awards, I think it does matter.
Okay. Governor, first of all, I appreciate your service. I appreciate your service in combat. It's not something that I did, and I recognize and honor your service for this country, and I mean that sincerely.
And we can do it. And here's the...
Dildo, all right. This is what I find to be hilarious. I ain't never seen Will Cain, Ben, call Trump out on a single lie. I ain't never seen Will Cain tell Trump, now hold up, now you're lying. Why did you lie? Why you lying in front of me right now? Ever. First of all, Fox News pays $787.5 million because they helped spread Trump's lies about the election. In fact, Will Cain is such a punk ass. Just the other day, when Donald Trump lied, about Wes Moore thanking him and praising him as the best president in his lifetime, in which we all know is a lie. In fact, matter of fact, I was going to, but this is amazing, Ben. Will Cain reads the lie, plays the video debunking the lie, and then his punk ass is still scared to call Trump a liar. Watch.
Knocking the hell out of him. Wes Moore is posting on social media saying that President Trump can't walk, but maybe he should walk the streets of Baltimore. It didn't take him long to respond to the president there in the Oval Office. He said, LOL, keep telling yourself that, Mr. President. It'd be wild, though, if only we had the footage that President Trump had referenced about them meeting at the Army-Navy game. And thanks to the Art of the Surge on Fox Nation, we have the footage.
Mr. President, welcome back to Maryland, sir. Welcome back to Maryland. It's good to see you. In person, too. Thank you, sir. Great to see you. Great to see you. And great to have you back here. Great to have you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we are very, very anxious to be able to work closely with you, and I know the Key Bridge is something that we're specifically. It's going well. I mean, we spoke with Speaker Johnson yesterday, and Speaker Johnson says he believes that we're close to the 100% cost share. And the thing is, I told him when we get that 100% cost share done, we are going to be able to go over the Key Bridge under your watch, because I will have it done in 28, on time and on budget. We'll help you out. Thank you, sir.
We didn't hear their greatest president ever, but we did hear a lot of enthusiasm and so excited to meet you, Mr. President. Who's telling the truth? We'll let you decide.
You a punk ass, Will. The man lied and you're like, well, we didn't hear it, but we'll let you decide. So you want to tell Westmore, why'd you not tell the truth? Why'd you keep spreading lie? And that man lied, and you played the video showing he a lie, and Will Kane's sorry ass still scared to call it a lie. Ben, go ahead.
He can't call it a lie because he'll lose his position at Fox News, right? That's first and foremost. Secondly, that shows you that he doesn't do any show prep. Like, how do you watch the video and not even know what's in the video? You're being paid millions of dollars to do this, Will. But thirdly, this is why I believe that we should pay no attention to MAGA whatsoever when it comes to any claims they have against us. Don't give it air, don't give it breath, just move right past it. Why? Not that we don't have to lie about anything on our side. But we also don't have to slow down and give credence to the hypocrisies that MAGA wants to call out about us over here. No. They have too many lies to sort through over the last 10 years alone for us to ever care about what they say and call a hypocrisy on the left.
It is just crazy to me, Michael, that Will Kane could literally let it come out of his mouth. Well, Governor, you weren't telling the truth. Governor, you were not being truthful. Governor, you lied. And just the day before or 2 days earlier, Will Kane could not even say, all he said, well, you know, we didn't quite hear. Well, let me play it again. You know, we didn't quite hear. You know, we didn't quite. And then he tried to say it like softly, so I guess we wouldn't hear him saying it. So well, watch this, y'all. Again, if you want to see, I love these MAGA people who love talking about testosterone and male strength. Ain't no male strength right here. Listen to this.
We didn't hear their greatest president ever, but we did hear.
Oh, we didn't hear greatest president ever, but we did hear some great words. Listen.
Enthusiasm and so excited to meet you, Mr. President. Who's telling the truth? We'll let you decide.
Who's telling the truth? We'll let you decide. Here's what we know, Michael. Who's a lying, weak, impotent television host? Will Kane.
Right. And there's a lot of them like that on Fox News, and there's some on MSNBC and CNN, but Fox News is the worst. So with this right here, you see now, for those that don't know, and I had to do some research on this, Governor Westmore in December 2024 received the Bronze Star. It is true that in 2006 on a White House fellowship application, he said that he had received the Bronze Star for his service in Afghanistan, but that was not true. But
yeah, because there was because that was a paperwork issue, and the commander later resubmitted it. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, I'm reading a piece from the Associated Press, and it says the application, a 2006 White House fellowship application, when the paperwork had not been fully processed. Okay, but he did eventually get it. One, and Will Kane didn't really want to admit that. Two, Westmore actually served. Donald Trump got 5 deferments. Never served as a coward, got 5 deferments. Not only that, Donald Trump said that his Vietnam was avoiding getting STDs.
Right.
Okay.
And Will Kane ain't served nothing.
But I never heard Donald Trump say he was successful in not catching any STDs. Maybe that's another conversation. But I'm just saying. So this is the hypocrisy.
Right.
This is how how you have these cowards in mainstream media,
right,
who are afraid to call a lie from a dictator.
Matt, this is real simple. Will Kane, and listen, I used to debate Will on CNN. I got his number. He follows me on Twitter. I follow him on Twitter. And we had back and forth debates. You know, he went to University of Texas, sorry-ass school. I'm a Texas A&M graduate. But he was weak as hell when I was at CNN. And you know what? This is called, if you want to see white man failing upward, it's Will Cain. He's the new Tucker Carlson, okay? And they just love him. They think he's great, got a great head of hair, supposedly a lawyer. That boy ain't bright. But you got to be weak as hell where you want to, where you sitting there getting patted on the back. Oh, he held Westmore, took him to task on this whole issue. When you were so impotent, you couldn't even say, Donald Trump, man, we played the video. You lying. He ain't say all that you said. No, but he make matters worse by sitting there going, you decide. I'm not going to decide. I'm not going to decide. I know what the video says. I mean, I know what Trump says. But we hashed the video, and I didn't quite hear any of that Trump saying. So, sorry. I mean, Donald, I hate to go there, but I think you misconstrued. I think you stretched. I think you were over your skis. I think you, because they don't want to say lie, so they will come up with every other phrase. Right. But Will's sorry ass couldn't even say that. I'm like, how you look yourself in the mirror where you want to try to challenge the governor, and then your little weak ass can't even call out a basic lie after your ass played the video. First of all, you stupid for even playing the video because you look even more dumb, and so does Trump.
Bro, we got the receipts. We got the video of it, right? It's not a conversation that somebody had and there's no way to disprove it. We literally have what he said and didn't say. And that's why it shows you that this is all about MAGA racist vibes more than it is anything else. Because if you look at how we tried to repackage it, he said, well, we didn't hear those words, but we did hear some enthusiasm, so we'll let you decide. No, there's no decision, because the truth is he didn't say what Trump said he said, but that doesn't matter. Truth doesn't matter to MAGA. It's all about vibes. We know that. So the vibes here are, we're going to make it look like Westmore was, showing the president love and whatever, fawning all over him, which is also in some way kind of stupid, right? Because they're elected officials. Elected officials are going to do this. When the president comes, you're going to say, Mr. President, Miss President, we want to welcome you to our locale, and thank you for what you're doing. I mean, that's just kind of part and parcel with the job. But he didn't say you're the best president ever, which is the claim, and Will Cain didn't have enough fortitude to just say that outright. But that's the thing. It's not about journalism anymore, and it's not about truth. It's about staying in Trump's good orbit and about the vibes, and that's what this is about. Move the goalpost so you score every time.
And again, I think probably I did a freeze frame, and I guess Will got to keep his lips inside, because when you kiss so much ass, you don't want people to see the chap. And that was absolutely a great. Will, I will award you this, and I previously awarded you. Hey, do y'all have that? Can y'all please find the award that I previously gave Will? Can y'all pull that up, please? Because and again, y'all remember the award I gave Will, okay? And so what gets me is the sucking up that's what's just so crazy to me. Like, the sucking up is so bad. Like, you got to kiss that ass so much. Okay, I get it. The cabinet people, that fool said this, oh my God, you're the greatest ever in the history of everness, get a Nobel Peace Prize. I get all that. But I'm like, bruh, you got to kiss the ass that much that you can't even call a lie when you just played the lie. You repeated the lie. You played the video that contradicted the lie. And then you go, y'all heard it. You decide, because I don't want. And you know what? I got more respect if he went, hey, y'all, listen. I ain't trying to get on Trump's bad side. I really need this job. The check is nice. They pay for all of my hair care products. So listen, I am not going to contradict anything that Donald Trump says, because I just can't do. Do y'all have the award ready? We put this together. You know what? I think we should just go ahead and play this again, because Will Cain, you're outdoing yourself. Roll it.
Golden Trump MAGA Ass Kissing Award, honoring a lifetime of exceptional flattery and unwavering dedication to ass-kissing excellence, awarded to Fox News' Will Cain. For unparalleled commitment to the fine art of sycophancy, this prestigious honor recognizes those who have bent over backward, perfected the art of empty praise, and elevated brown nosing to an Olympic-level sport. From his relentless nodding in agreement to his uncanny ability to compliment even the most questionable decisions, Will Cain has demonstrated an unwavering devotion to the craft of kissing ass. His lips have graced the ass of twice-impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Don the Con Trump with such finesse that even history itself must pause in admiration. May this golden Trump MAGA ass-kissing award serve as a symbol of Will Cain's lifelong achievement of puckering up and kissing the ass of a wannabe dictator, and ensuring his legacy of loyalty remains forever unchecked.
Well earned, Will. Well earned. Michael, Ben, Matt, thanks for being on today's show. I appreciate what's wrong, Matt. Matt, that's your fellow Longhorn, Matt.
Well, I didn't go to Texas. I don't know why you don't remember this.
No, but you always talking them up. So you always talking them up, and again, you keep talking them up. I guess when Ohio Buckeyes beat that ass this weekend, you're not gonna say something. What? I'm just saying.
I knew you was gonna say something. I knew you was gonna feel yourself in your essence fast back.
Oh no, I'm trying to. Say something. So I'm just trying to say. So you didn't go there, but you really, really like him, right?
I mean, my parents met there, so my blood is literally orange. How about that?
Oh, okay.
I went to Howard. You know that.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand, but you always.
But I also drove away from College Station today.
But you always repping them so hard. You always repping them so hard, so.
You're right.
Mm-hmm. So, so go ahead, claim Will Cain.
No, definitely not doing that. Come on now. You don't got to be disrespectful, brother. Come on. You crossing some lines there.
You crossing lines talking about the Longhorns on this show.
Gag them is all I got to say, baby. Gag them.
You know what I say? Saw horns off. Yeah. That's what's going to happen when them Ohio State Buckeyes.
Me if Texas win.
First of all, you know when they lose, your ass will be the first one to hear from me.
No, not even. They about to get that dub.
We know you're gonna have your phone on mute. You're gonna be on do not disturb.
Nah.
Oh yes. Nah. Oh yes.
I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it on the chin like I did last time. Man, that's the first time you ever text me when they took that L. I was like, this is the pettiest man in America. Let me tell you about it.
Sustained. All right, y'all, I got to go. Folks, y'all have a fabulous weekend, Labor Day weekend. Hey, we got some great stuff. So we're going to have a Rolling with Roland marathon beginning at midnight on Monday. We're going to be running a ton of our interviews, and so y'all get to enjoy that. Of course, it is Labor Day. Let's give thanks to the labor unions and labor movement for, of course, all the work that they have in creating, again, this day, and also the work they've created for us to celebrate. And next week, y'all, September 4th, we'll be celebrating the 7th anniversary of Roland Martin Unfiltered, the 4th anniversary of the Black Star Network. And on that day, I'm going to unveil something new we've been working on. But also, I want y'all, we got a renewed focus. Y'all, we're going to be going hard in 2026. And we need your support in doing so. So our goal is this here. Again, we always talk about it. We want to raise $1 million. I got other people, pastors, others going to be sending stuff out. In honor of our 7th anniversary, our goal is to raise $1 million by December 31st. Again, for staff and funding and all that sort of stuff like that. So we got that going. We're going to be pushing this on social media all over the place. So we're looking forward to that. And so that's what we are working on, and that's our target goal. Folks, if y'all want to support the work that we do, give to us via Cash App, via Stripe, the Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen. Use that Cash App. Also, checks and money orders make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version I read on Audible. Get our Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Star Network swag. That's right, our t-shirts, hats, mugs, you name it. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. Also, support our black-owned products. Also on shopblackstarnetwork.com. We got skincare, we got toilet paper, we got backpacks, we got barbecue sauces, we got other sauces, we got desserts, popcorns, HBCU legacy shirts, you name it, we got it. All on shopblackstarnetwork.com, our marketplace. Check it out. These are black-owned products. Let's actually support these companies. And, of course, download the app Fanbase. Of course, get the app Fanbase. If you want to invest, go to startengine.com/Fanbase. And, folks, don't forget, every Friday, we know what we do. We also recognize the more than 36,000 people who have been donors. You want to get your name on this list, then you contribute to our Bring the Funk fan club. We celebrate our donors of people who gave one time or people who have tithed every single month since we launched 7 years ago. That's how we end the show. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a great holiday weekend. See you on Tuesday.